I'm life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. This is the Crave More Life Roadshow podcast with guest Carolyn McGee. Carolyn McGee wrote Chapter 7 in Volume 1 of the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing book series that she called Grounding and Centering, Clarity Through Heart Connection. Carolyn McGee, intuition teacher and coach, former corporate high-tech star and serial entrepreneur, specializes in helping women amplify their intuitive superpower to listen to, trust, and follow their soul's path to live the most joyful, healthy, connected, abundant, and purposeful life. By helping women to identify and transcend patterns that are in the way of achieving the life of their dreams, she guides them to align heart, mind, body, and soul with their inner power and radiance so that they can communicate easily with their angels and intuition to trust their guidance. Her step-by-step process, the Soul Clarity System, clearly connects you to your divine purpose, removes blocks that keep you from implementing your divine guidance and getting results in every area of life. Carolyn has co-authored 9 best-selling books, is a popular TV co-host, sought-after speaker, and blogger. She has taught thousands of professional, corporate, and entrepreneurial people to trust themselves and their intuition so they can show up in full power in business and life. So let's get into the conversation with Carolyn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm very excited about this.
We did try to do this once before, and it just didn't happen. So, this really is the time, and I'm really happy that you're here.
Yeah, me too. I truly believe in divine timing. I just trust and follow the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, Carolyn, you know that this show is about emotional hits and what we did to get through them. So, why don't we just jump in and get you to share a little bit about yourself and your past lives?
Sure. So, as a child, I was extremely intuitive, very connected. Trees, fairies, animals, the whole nature realm. And was told to stop making up stuff. So at 10, I almost drowned and became very fearful of my own choices because I made the choice to go in the river that day. Even though the adults gave me permission, as a 10-year-old child, I somehow knew that it was my responsibility. And I stopped trusting myself. I started believing everybody else. And I just started being a really good rule follower and, following the rules of the family, the rules of society. I also happened to be really brilliant in math and science. So I went to an engineering school, and then worked for 20 plus years in corporate America, high tech, in the manufacturing realm. I was really good at it, but I wasn't happy. And I found myself over time following my intuition, but it's interesting the way my guides would safely allow me to trust it. Like I would trust my intuition in a work setting, but I wouldn't trust my intuition personally. So I ended up in a unhealthy marriage, but succeeding at work because Carolyn knew things. And it was only at the end of it all when I finally had to leave my marriage because we couldn't come to terms on my new way of acting, that I really stepped in and stepped out into embracing my intuition, embracing my guidance, and kind of took off that invisibility cloak that I had had on for so many years about what my gifts are. And it's sad when you lose a relationship over something, but the relationship itself helped make me who I am. So there's the blessing in that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So there's a lot to dig into there for me. And I want, and I love it. I love it. So, if I can go back just to your beginning, and you said how you were connected with so many beings, what did that look like for you?
Some of it is still a little bit fuzzy. I'm really working, like I currently work a lot with animals. I currently work a lot with angels and the divine energy. And I am just really coming back and embracing the elemental piece. I have always been a big nature girl, needed the water. I actually have a fountain running in my office right next to me.
Nice.
Yeah, and very fascinated by plants. And I'm realizing as I reconnect to that piece of myself that I've always had it. My grandmother was a big gardener and she nurtured and spoke to. Now, she didn't acknowledge that she heard back. I know at a deep level that I heard back, that the trees whispered to me, that the rocks had a certain vibration to them. And so as I'm doing this now, it's more of a remembering. It's a remembering from my childhood, and it's also a remembering from past lives and, that DNA memory that we have.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I was curious about that because so often, and so many people that I've talked to, and about children that are spiritually connected, they do get shut down. They're not encouraged to share what they see or what they hear or feel. And I can't imagine, first of all, the discomfort that may cause for a child like yourself, and obviously you decided you were going to ignore that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just I go back to thinking about the learning that I have had about how how we all are connected. When we're born and we don't know it, and if we're not encouraged to be open about it, then it can just become very silent.
Yeah, and in families that, are struggling, my dad was an alcoholic, and, my mother was trying to hold the family together. She was doing the best job she could.
Of course.
And, it's easier to have a child that fits in a lane, so to speak, than to have a kid that you don't know what to do with, because my mother is very pragmatic. She always has been. And she truly didn't understand me, and but she loved me.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think that as parents, we do the best we can. I can remember some situations with my own daughters that I probably could have handled differently today if I knew then what I know now. Yeah, yeah, we do the best we can. That's for sure. So, it was interesting too that you talked about the difference between, you were comfortable using your gifts in your workplace, but not in your personal life. So, why was that different, do you suppose?
I think because in at home, I used to say I left my personality at the door. I was in an extremely controlling, manipulative relationship. He was afraid that he was going to lose me, so he held me really tight and just squished all my individuality out. And I allowed it. So I thrived at work, and it's a kind of classic, actually. You become the workaholic because you thrive there, and then the person at home tries to hold on harder because you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was encouraged in a lot of ways to use my gifts, and we didn't call it intuition. It was kind of joked around, you know Carolyn knows stuff, or, believe Carolyn when she says this, because I would prove it. A small example is I would, using clairsentience, which is that sensory empath feeling, I'd be able to walk into a room during a negotiation and I would know that the people we're working with either were telling the truth about something or they were hiding something. And so then we could use the other skills, the negotiation skills, the tactical skills, kind of poke at what the truth was. And then I had this sensor and I'd be able to say, okay, now we're in the truth zone. So, and I didn't know what it was. I just knew that it was there.
Right. Right. That's an interesting point too, that, well, I guess I should go back. First of all, that's very cool that you can do that in that kind of you've probably jumped over all kinds of issues in the workplace with that kind of skill. But it is interesting to think about, when you are experiencing that you don't, you just know.
You just know what you know. Yeah. And that, that's another one of the ways that we sense information. It's called claircognizance. And it's called the gut instinct, right? Like, do you just know you don't like somebody, or you know that you met your new best friend? And there's no logic to it. And that's the gift and the curse of it, is that you can't prove anything because it comes so fast. And a lot of times those are the ones that we second guess because we wonder, did I really hear that? Did I really know that? Is that the truth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always just tell my clients, write it down and then go back and verify it later. Keep a journal and track what's happening so that you can prove yourself right.
That's great advice. Yeah. Yeah. Good idea. Because yes, if we often hear, trust your intuition, but it's hard I think for a lot of women, if we're not in that headspace to even connect with what their intuition is, well, that can't be,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, that's not true.
No, yeah. No, absolutely not. And, I do love journaling, and, because I've got this engineering logical background, I bullet point journal. I don't, even though I'm a writer, I've got my books and, I have that in common. I still bullet point my journal with just little ideas, concepts, and it's easier for me to overcome that it doesn't matter, or it's not true, or it's not necessary little voice in the back of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. So the message is trust that little voice, huh?
Trust that little voice. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the things that, for listeners, what are some of the things that they should be paying attention to aside from intuition, or is that kind of the big one, to suggest that perhaps they have more spiritual gifts than what they understand that they do?
Yeah. So first I want to say everybody is intuitive. It's a myth that certain people have the gift and certain people don't. Absolutely everybody has a level of intuition. And it's like a muscle. I always say, you go to the gym and you lift your weights. So with intuition, you practice it. And part of the practicing is noticing it and acknowledging it. So you see something that catches your eye, you jot it down, or at least say out loud, oh, I see this. A really simple way to do is start acknowledging numbers. Numbers are all around us. We see them in the time, we see them in the mileage, we see them in X numbers. They're everywhere around us. And if you see a number that catches your interest, oftentimes my guides will start out with master numbers, which are 3 numbers in a row. So just start noticing, oh, look at that. I see 222 on a regular basis. I wonder what that means. You can meditate with it to figure out what it means. You can look it up online. There's even books on what the energy of numbers are. And then that becomes a message for you. Or that could be a personal message. For years I would see 911, years and years and years before I even understood the energy of numbers. And I always thought that everything was an emergency. I was kind of living in crisis, so it made sense, right?
Hmm.
Well, it turned out that it was a foreshadowing of a new beginning for me because my divorce date was 9/11. It was 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful.
It is powerful. Yeah. And, it happened to be 9/11, 2001. So it was a true big energetic shift for the world as well as for me.
Hmm.
And that was part of my awakening, all of the events around that. So
Hmm.
yeah, so paying attention. And then as you start noticing things, you'll start seeing it more. And after a while, it kind of becomes a fun little game. What can I do today?
What am I going to see today? Yeah, awesome. That's very very cool. So, tell us a little bit more about the that awakening that you referred to.
So when I was still in my marriage and trying to find a way to, I guess, heal myself and come back to who I knew I was, and also stay married. We had two small children, and my objective was to find a way for us to work together. Um, I just, I'm a crazy reader. I love to read. So I just devoured all different kinds of spiritual books and different ways of understanding the energy. I got into feng shui and moved things around the house, which actually did help some. But, unfortunately, my ex-husband, he used to say, I haven't changed since the day you married me. And I'm like, well, um, life is about change, you
Yeah.
know, and I have changed and I want to find, so it kind of just became clear for me that I was going to have to do this in a different manner on my
Mm-hmm.
own. And the way I healed myself was through knowledge. And
Hmm.
knowledge is taking classes, knowledge is learning from other experts, knowledge is hiring a coach, and listening to podcasts and all these different things. And I just enjoyed immersing myself in that. And then the more I took the classes, the more I realized I knew. And because I was getting the validation, you
Right.
know, a lot of times we get our validation from external to start, right? We go to school and we get a good test or we get a good grade on a test. In my case, I was working with people who are highly intuitive and very connected, and they could validate what I was sensing and feeling in my body because
Mm.
they were doing the same thing. And it's and now I get the joy of doing that for other people. It's just such a
Hmm.
beautiful circle.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm really resonating with this because I'm kind of in that place myself where, I know that there are things that I need to learn more about, but I'm ready to be open to it. So yeah, yeah, I love that. And it is, it is a place to learn for sure. And I am blown away by the number of women that at this time now, when it is important to me, are circling around me. Women that I'm meeting, for the first time, like yourself, or, so many other women that can be guides or teachers. So powerful.
It is, yeah. It's just amazing. And I found every single time in my life when I was ready to make a shift, the right person came into my life.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that. I do believe that. And you know what? I think that's an important message to share. That it is true. It does. People do show up when you need them to. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're not alone. It makes that's what that for me. That's what it is. We're not alone here.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
I think, at the end, not the end, but getting towards the end of, this pandemic that we've been going through as a human race, realizing that you're not alone is so important.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got me through a lot of this because I do live alone, and being in knowing that I've got guidance around me, that I'm loved and supported by my guides, by by being able to communicate with my own animals, and know that there's other energy that's supporting me in the household, even though I'm the only human being in the household.
Mm-hmm.
It's helped me, with my mental health, because it's been challenging for so many people.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a long year, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah, and it's it's made difficult for sure when we're on our own. Yeah, so good that you've got all those connections. So the animal piece is fascinating to me. So when do you work with people to help them read their pets, or do you read their pets? Just kind of curious about that part of what you do.
Yeah, so I communicate with the animals using telepathy, which is the transference of pictures, thoughts, and emotions. And I will do readings for people to help connect them with their animals, both in body and deceased. And I also teach them so that they can do it themselves. So it really depends on what the individual is looking for. A lot of people just want a little bit of support. My animal is misbehaving, they need this, or my animal is sick, can you support me with this?
Mm-hmm.
I am also a medical intuitive, so I can sense into the animal's energy and sense, heaviness, tightness, denseness, that types of energy, so that I can help support them and their vet with what they need to evaluate within the animal's energy. And unfortunately, I've also had animals say, I'm tired. It's time for you to let me go. And the only reason I'm still here is that they don't want me to leave.
Right.
But it brings peace to the owner to know that they're loved, and the animals really, they're just going into a different dimension. They're still always going to be there.
Mm-hmm. In thinking from my own experiences with animals, when it's their time, it's difficult to let them go. Very difficult. Yeah, they become such an important part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that kind of message I think, is so helpful, not just for the pet, but I think it's a really important thing for us to learn that, not everything stays the same, as you said. Change happens.
It does, and they can be our biggest teachers too. I have a black cat who has taught me so much about being embodied. He helps me with my energy, and he was really, really sick in the fall. Had anemia. We don't know what the underlying condition is. He's pretty good at blocking his energy from me. And he stopped eating for 9 days. So I had to love him, or got to love him, and let him, and say, if it's time for you to go, you can go. And I love you enough to let you go.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 10th day, he woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, standing on my head, starving out of his mind. And he's back. The anemia levels are getting better. I believe it was not a test. It was a opportunity for me to really have faith, to know that I loved him enough to let him go, that I could survive without him, because I am very connected to my animals, and to really trust that the universe has my back, and that everything's going to be okay no matter what.
Yeah.
It was not easy. I'm not going to say at all it was easy, but I went to a different level through that experience, a different level of connection, a different level of trust in the universe.
Wow. So the tests just keep on coming.
Yeah. And, the word test kind of grates me a little bit. I like to use them as opportunities for growth.
Much nicer, yes.
It fits my own psychology better. Like, I always used to hate tests, right? Even though I was a really good test taker, I just didn't like them. So opportunities for growth, that feels expansive to me. I can get on board that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I'm thinking about some of the, some of the people in the world who are not in that space yet and feeling the sadness. And it's, I guess it's similar when we lose anyone or anything, or, there's an ending to anything. There's that place where we are just so full of grief, that it doesn't feel like an opportunity until you've had a chance to heal a little bit. And then hindsight is 2020, I think, because yes, I believe that they are all huge opportunities for growth.
Yeah, and everybody has those stories when you can eventually look back and see what the silver lining is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful, I guess, way to show our own growth and to see our own growth is when we reach that point of, okay, that was really, really horrible, but I see the gift in it. And one of my big points along my journey was when I could look at my ex-husband and have such intense gratitude for him because he was such a big teacher for me. And yeah, it was painful and it was horrendous, but I would not be who I am without the lessons that I learned and the opportunities for growth throughout our relationship. And
Right.
right now, all I have is gratitude for him.
That's beautiful, and so much healthier than just carrying resentment or anger or frustration, whatever it is. And just looking at life from that perspective is so awesome. It just opens up so many more, as you said, it's opportunities.
It is. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And when I was a kid, they used to tease me and call me Pollyanna, and you've got rose-colored glasses, and all the way along, I never lost to that. Now I filtered it where I'm not naive anymore, and I do trust the energy of this is not a safe situation for me, or not a healthy situation for me. But for the most part, I know that the universe really does have my back, and that there is something positive that's going to come out of it, no matter how I feel in this particular moment. And living my life that way just makes it easier, because even in the depths of despair, I know that something good is coming tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I like to get across in my coaching practice is the concept of kicking your own ass, which is taking responsibility for your
Mm-hmm.
experiences.
Yeah.
So in doing that, um, I really feel like trust is a big part of that. Trusting that what it is that you need, and trusting that you can make it happen, and trusting that you have spirit of some kind behind you, I think is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And so many of my clients will say, I see the messages, I hear the messages, I know things, but I don't trust myself enough, or I don't trust, that God really has my back
Mm.
enough to follow through on them. So there's
Mm.
all of these missed opportunities along the way that could make life so much happier and joyful if they did have that trust.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, building up that ability, and journal, write it down.
Yeah, yeah, write it down. That's a big one. So, how else would you respond to your clients when they say that to you?
There's this beautiful little tool that I developed over the years, and it's similar to the others out there, but you just put your hands on your heart. And if you think about something that brings you joy, for me, I always think about my animals because they bring me so much joy, and they're easy. They're not complicated like humans can be sometimes. So I just think about something that makes me happy. And like my heart gets warm. It makes me feel good. I feel my chest wants to expand. There's just this sense of joy. And then I think about something that's bad for me. Like I usually think of a pack of cigarettes. I was never a smoker, but
Mm.
my dad was, and we battled over it for years, and he ended up with cancer, etc. So it's like one of those really, it's a trigger for me. And so I think about holding a pack of cigarettes to my heart, and Like right now, I can feel my throat closing down. I want to
Mm.
literally
Mm-hmm.
hide my chest, and I have chills. So my body reacts a certain way, and everybody will be different. So you can use your heart as a barometer for yes and no, and for the truth. So you get that intuitive hit. You just say, let's just say I got an intuitive hit that I need to go to the grocery store right after you and I are talking. So is that the truth for me? No, I just made this up, and they said no because it's not the truth for me. But if you had something, is it, here's one, is it optimum for me to pick up the daylilies that somebody offered to me today? And now my heart is becoming expansive. So that is a yes. That is a truth for me. And you can do it for everything. What do I wear this morning? Is this the right outfit for me? And your heart is always going to tell you the truth. It cannot lie.
Mm.
There's a lot of research out there now that the heart is actually a second brain. It has its own intelligence.
Wow. Wow. You know what? I think that that's an awesome exercise and a very easy one
Mm-hmm.
that people can pick up and just practice on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can write things down on a piece of paper and hold it to your heart. A question, if it's easier. And in the beginning, I had to have everything tangible because I'm an engineer. So
So are you doing this full time now? You're not doing any engineering at this point, are you?
I'm not. No, I got out of the engineering field 15, 16 years ago. And at that point in time, my transition into this intuitive coaching was to open a pet care company. So I have
Okay.
that as a business also. In Massachusetts, we do dog walking and pet sitting, and I do the animal communication piece too. And then
Excellent.
I also do this coaching. So it's fun.
Right.
It keeps me busy, and it allows me to exercise different parts of my brain and engage different aspects of my energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yes, very different.
Very different.
Which is cool all on its own. I mean, we're not narrow in what we bring to the world. So I love that, and I love that you've embraced them in whatever way you did, and continue to, because they're part of you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, we all have those aspects of ourselves, the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And the intuitive pieces were the divine feminine, the dog walking, tangible, um, you know, scheduling thing that's in that business is more the masculine. And it's fun to allow the energies to kind of ebb and flow, and support each other. And sometimes I'm out walking my own dog and I'll get a brilliant download. And other times
Mm.
I'm working on my taxes and I'll get an idea for a course. So just allowing them to kind of, be open to everything rather than trying to stay in a lane. That's that's the energy that I really needed to escape, that I had allowed myself to be put into.
Right. Right. Yes. And that opening, that awareness, that opening up, I think is beautiful. I mean, what you offer is amazing, Carolyn. I think yeah, you're amazing. It's great,
Thank you.
really great. So tell me if you're comfortable answering this, but did your children have the same gifts?
Both of my children are extremely empathic, and they're very
Mm.
sensitive.
Mm.
Um, they utilize it in different ways. My daughter is a special ed teacher, so
Mm.
she utilizes her gifts of empathy to be able to really understand. Some of the kids that she worked with early on, right now she works with high school kids that are integrated into the system, but she used to work with nonverbal children, but she could sense it in, and she didn't often, she's kind of like I was, she didn't often give it credit for what it is, but she knows what it is because I speak about it all the time.
Right.
I'm very transparent with my children. We went through some challenges with Mom's Weird. Like every, it doesn't matter what you're weird about. Every child has their mom's weird phase.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and this mom was a little bit weirder because she she thinks she talks to angels. And
Yeah, she thinks she talks to angels.
right, Jill, Mom, I can't find my backpack. Can you help me find it? Do you know where I left my keys? Will you ask the angels? Like, it just kind of creeps its way in. Like anything, as a parent or as an individual in a relationship, when you truly believe in who you are and what you offer to the world, and you're
Hmm.
really standing in that truth, people, they see it, they sense it, and they want that.
Hmm.
Maybe they don't want what you've got, but they want their own version of that confidence in
Yeah,
their own abilities.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they trust you more, or any of us, because we are standing in that truth. So, we're not, it's not kind of we'll do it today, but we don't do it tomorrow. Once you're comfortable, as you obviously are, then yeah, it's a solid, this is me.
Hmm.
I think that becomes a trust thing for people as well.
Yeah, and I think it helps the children. Part of mine was what I would sense as a child was different than what I was being told. So it confused me. And I think a lot of children get that. And for my children, they they mentally thought that I was a little bit off, but they knew that I truly believed it. So, there
Yeah.
was this sense of you can be yourself, you can be authentic, and it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks as long as you are, in integrity with yourself. And I
Yes.
think it's helped them to become really strong young adults in their own right and march to their own drummer.
Hmm. And isn't that the best message to give your kids?
Yeah.
You, whatever you are is good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, you get
Yeah,
to pick, you get to be. Yeah,
and you're good enough as you are in this exact moment,
yeah,
and every day's a little bit different.
yeah,
Your best today might not be your best tomorrow, or it might not have been your best yesterday, but it's your best today.
yeah.
And just celebrate that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe too that, in order to be who we want to be, we have to understand who we are. So, that the acknowledgement and the trust of what that is, and then the acknowledgement that, yep, that's it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It really, I think that allows us the freedom to be who that is.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of the things that's, I think, beautiful is, I can't even remember the number, but it's some billion souls that are on the earth right now, and we're all unique. There's no one like you, there is no one like me. And that's so beautiful to know
Mm-hmm.
that we may have similarities, but we each have a unique gift to offer the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, what else would you have to say to the listeners about, because my intuition is saying that, the questions after this are going to be, well, I think I have a little bit of spiritual power, but I'm not really sure. And yeah, it's that trusting again, but even just that beginning, I don't really know, and then I don't know what to do with it anyway. So how would you approach that? What kind of advice would you give to people that are, I think so, but I don't know?
I would advise them to do what I did when I started out. Find somebody that you trust, find an
Mm-hmm.
expert. You can reach out to me if you feel aligned to my energy. And if not, there are thousands of other really amazing coaches and teachers out there who are working with intuition, who are working with angels and guides. And having the guidance, having somebody being able to validate for you that what you're sensing is true, what you think you're hearing in your head is in fact the truth, that voice in your head is authentic and it's not you're crazy. because these are the things that oftentimes we're taught, especially, those of us who grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, we were not taught to honor that individuality, you
Hmm.
know, um,
Especially as young girls.
especially as young girls.
Hmm.
It was follow the leader. And now many of us have broken out of that. I when I went to college, I think the ratio of men to women was 9-1, in the engineering aspect. So, I broke out in one way, but I didn't break out in my heart and in being authentic that way. So, now we get the opportunity to do it. And really, the best way to do it is to have support, because you get to ask and feel vulnerable and say, okay, this might sound crazy. And then you get somebody to say, all right, shift that a little bit and see if it fits better, maybe look at it a little different perspective, or I am getting the exact same thing. You're not crazy.
Mm. Validation. Yeah.
Validation, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just as important, I think, for somebody wanting to learn about their own spirituality and intuition to have a coach or a guide as it is, for a sports figure
Mm.
or a singer.
Hmm. Yeah, good point. Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, and the whole guide piece I think is really useful. And I don't think that that's specifically, you know, directed to, to spiritual gifts or not, as you said,
Mhm.
like anything requires a guide, and this is just something else to learn about.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
just another aspect of us living this human experience that, when you get that nudge, because we all get it at some point in time in our lives, reach out for some support, or join a Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a great Facebook group called Enhance Your Intuition, and we play. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. So just try to don't go it alone. That's the biggest message.
Mm.
Don't go it alone. You know,
Mm.
there's no need to.
Mm. Yeah, I'm certainly finding that with the number of healers and, people with spiritual gifts that I have come across over the last year. Yeah, there is no need to go alone. Absolutely not. Yeah, that is the learning. I mean, we go to university, we go to school, we go to learn whatever our trade is. What if this is the trade? It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah, yeah. Cool. So, tell us a little bit about your books, because you have authored many, haven't you?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have been a part of 11 co-authored books. Some of them are really simple, like 365 days of angel prayers. So I have some
Mm.
prayers, not 365, but it's collaborative. And then other ones are like the ultimate guides. I was in volume one, and it was just, and there's the self-care book that came out through the wellness universe. I
Mm.
was in another one recently on soulful leadership. They're just such beautiful opportunities to collaborate all this beautiful wisdom from different people and have it meld in together.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've done some amazing books, and I actually am doing one on intuition coming out in November. So I will be
Excellent.
leading one on the following your intuition when logic says not to.
Excellent. Oh, that's very, very exciting. Yeah, and great topic and timely, I think. So the ultimate book, I have to say to the listeners, I haven't. I'm sorry that I haven't read the other chapters in your other books, but I have read the one in that one in volume one, and it's really good. It's excellent, and it's definitely worth getting the book for, guys. Go and find it and read Carolyn's chapter. It's awesome. Yeah, it's really, really good. Very the starting from when you, as you referenced earlier, starting from that fall in the river, and where that took you was,
Mhm.
yeah, it was a fascinating story. And yeah, and your tool is good too.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So there is one last question that I want to ask you, and that is, it's just a little something that I like to slip in at the end of the podcast every time, and it is, can you share something with us that is fun or funny about you that you don't normally share?
Ooh. Um, Sound speaks to me.
Hmm.
I not only hear the sound, I hear the vibration and the message that it has, whether it's the wind in the trees or my furnace starting on. There is a little bit of there's a resonance that vibrates within me. And the fun part is that I haven't fully translated it yet. So I'm in
Ah.
process. You guys are on the leading edge of a new technology with me. I know
Ah.
there's something there. It's a full body resonance of it's there and it's coming. And
Right.
I'm having fun being a student again and allowing sound to teach me
Mhm.
so that I can teach others.
Wow, that's really interesting. So is that one of the Claires?
Not typically. Well, it is actually it is clear. Clear audience is what you hear. So, but it's typically you hear water and it reminds you to drink water, or you hear a bird and then you think of something, with that. So
Mhm.
that's the um, typical way that it's been done. So this feels like it's a slightly different version of it, where it's more the as an it's almost like a combination of the clear sentience, which is what you sense and feel. So the sound it becomes a vibration or a frequency in my body.
Mm.
So it's a very different way of integrating things for me. And as I said, I have not completely figured it out yet, or allowed it to come in. I'm not sure
Mm.
which
Wow.
which way to describe it, but it's fun, it's fascinating, and I'm just really curious about it. So now everybody knows.
There we go. It's super fun. Yes. Yeah. And fascinating. Yeah. So just to make sure that I'm clear, when you hear those things, instead of the traditional kind of responses you said, where we will, will take us, hear water and realize that we should drink more. Um, so you're actually trying to decipher the message that they're giving you, as opposed to the, what feels more of a response to hearing that sound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's more
Wow.
of a vibrational shift in me. I think a lot of us are becoming more and more aware of the frequency that surrounds us. Color is a frequency. A lot of times we just look and see the color, but we don't take into account the vibration of the color. And
Mm.
sound is the same thing. Obviously, it's a frequency. And, there's been so much work done with the quantum field and the vibration of sound. It feels like there is something for me in the different frequencies of sound that I get the opportunity to translate. The
Mm.
best way I can describe it. And that's, you now know everything I know. I will keep you posted.
Yes, please do. Please do. That's really fascinating. And I love how you are the carrier of this. It feels like that's who you are. That's part of your purpose, or maybe your whole purpose. I don't know. But yeah, it feels like such a well. It feels like an honor to be talking to you and learning about all this. All the different pieces of it for you, because it does feel like you are, you're not just here to play. This is the big time. For lack of a better way to describe it, this is the big time, and you are, you're here and doing this for a very important reason.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anything else that you'd like to share with our guests?
To trust their heart. I know we talked about it before, but
Mm.
really want to circle
Mm.
back and amplify how important that is. Trust your yourself, trust your heart, trust your soul. It's you're for our highest good, and you can trust it. It's safe.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. I love that. Carolyn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here, and it's been great to get to know you. And listeners, I just want to remind you that Carolyn is an intuition teacher and coach, and you've heard everything about the kinds of things that she offers, and this is powerful, powerful stuff. So if you've got that inkling, follow her advice and find somebody to help you. And I'm gonna say, like, she's really good, so I think maybe you might want to check her out. She's awesome.
No, thank you.
And lots of books, obviously, that you can read to get to know her a little bit more with as well. So yeah, just dive in and get to know her. I think it'll be worthwhile. I'm gonna start reading some more of her books, I believe. So thank you again. Thank you for being here, Facebook Live people. And this was our first attempt at Crave More Life Roadshow being, on Facebook Live. So I'm eager to see how that turned out on the live side. So thank you for being a bit of a guinea pig with me, Carolyn. I really appreciate that very much. And take care, everybody. Thanks for showing up, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.